Morning. I'd like to welcome you to the April meeting of the LCTCS Board of Supervisors. And yes, we are finally back in person. So excited to, yes. Thank you for joining us today. Before we begin, I'd like to remind you that the board meeting is being live streamed on YouTube. I would encourage each one of you to silence your cell phones and be mindful of the live stream. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I will turn to you to call the meeting to order.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. President. It's kind of weird being here, if the truth be known, but I would like to call this meeting to order of the Board of Supervisors, April 13, 2022. At this point, Supervisor Murphy, would you lead us in the pledge, please, sir?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands.
Nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Very good. Sarah, can you establish who's here?
Sir, happy to do so. Supervisor Price.
Here.
Supervisor Mount.
Here.
Supervisor Jackson. Here. Supervisor Bradford is absent. Supervisor Butler McIntyre is absent. Supervisor Carter. Supervisor Roman Hardy. Supervisor Tim Hardy. Supervisor McConduit is absent. Supervisor Murphy. Here. Supervisor Salat. Here. Supervisor Smith. Here. Supervisor Spahn. Here. Supervisor Toops.
Here.
Supervisor Kubion. Here. And Supervisor Pickron. Here. Mr. Chair, we do have a quorum of the board present, and I would like to take this time to remind our board members that we had an upgrade in technology, and your microphones need to be facing your mouths whenever you speak. Otherwise, the sound does not pick up.
Excellent. Can you hear me? All right, very good. At this point, I would request a motion to approve the meeting agenda, today's meeting agenda.
Move.
Motion by Ms. Mount, second by Ms. Carter.
We have a motion, seconds, any discussion? Is there any opposition? Hearing none, that motion does carry. Everybody got a copy of their minutes from the February 9th, 2022 meeting. At this point, I'd like to have a motion to approve.
Move.
Motion by Ms. Mount, second by Mr. Salat.
A motion, seconds, any discussion? Any opposition? Hearing none, that carries. All right, well, I guess we're getting down to my chair of the board report. First of all, as the 2020-2022 board leadership comes to the end of their service at the end of June, the governance committee is tasked with nominating the 2022-2024 board leadership per the Board of Supervisors bylaws. As such, I've had extensive conversations with Supervisor Toops, chair of the governance committee, who will handle this duty and will bring the recommended nominations from the governance committee to the board at the June meeting. Thank you, Supervisor Toops. At this point, the LCTCS workforce experience took place yesterday. It was a great event. It was wet. I got soaked. A lot of people got soaked. Sarah several of us just got drenched, but it was overall the people that had sense enough to stay inside didn't have a problem. But anyway, it was a great event, well attended, and I was glad I was down here to be a part of it. Quentin, I think you have something to, you want to have some highlights on that. Is that correct?
Quentin, I believe we have some photos, possibly, if we were able to get it together. Brandon, are you able to show those photos? And
great.
You guys have to understand that it was last night, so we don't know if the photos got to the computer that is displaying on the big screen. Oh, looks like we have a winner.
Very good, Quentin.
Brandon, for our YouTube guests, can you share your screen with the Zoom also? Because those are on YouTube won't be able to see it unless you share the screen.
Screen do we? Oh, okay. It's just one lit up now.
Thank you all for your patience as we try this new equipment out today.
Uh-oh. I was too. I was beginning to say, looking at. And while you're at the table, we will also do the skills update. So stand by for that.
This photo,
Oh my
Quentin, you
gosh.
weren't with us, but our chairperson took part in the mobile CDL lab, and he
It was awful.
passed much better than me. So
I only had a couple of wrecks. Sarah took out people, cars. It was bad.
I think I took out a whole community.
Well, Chair Price, members of the board, Dr. Sullivan, to the point you just made, yesterday was our 7th or 8th workforce experience. And I cannot say enough great things about the effort of our colleges. I mean, the faculty, the staff, the students, most importantly, just put on an amazing showcase of their skills. I have no doubt in my mind that what you saw yesterday was absolutely the best and brightest of our students, as well as our faculty, and it shined brightly despite those rain clouds that we had yesterday. And to a point Dr. Sullivan made when he addressed the crowd was that 7, 8 years ago, the technology was what the technology was. But the difference that we saw yesterday, evidenced by this photograph that's on the screen with the chairman in that simulator, just speaks volumes to, number one, the commitment that this board has made in terms of providing resources and charting the course in terms of making sure that we prepare our students for high value, high demand, and high wage programs. So great turnout. I think we counted between 12 and 15 legislators who made their way despite being in session almost until 6:30 last night and being there all day. And so just kudos to the team at the colleges, but I really want to give a shout out to our staff here, Dr. Sullivan and board members. They just went above and beyond, and I can't be proud of the work that they did yesterday.
It was a great event. Any comments from those board members in attendance? Okay. Quentin, now, since you're there, would you provide us an update on the recent Skills USA?
Absolutely. Again, in the face of all the challenges that this virtual environment has created, the Skills USA state competition did go on as planned last week, I believe it was. We had more than 330 participants from across our colleges. They competed in 40 different competitions. And of those 330 participants, 50 have qualified to go on to nationals, which is in Atlanta this year, the week of June 20th in Atlanta. And so excited to see what those students will do when they go to nationals to compete. What I can tell you is during our debrief as a staff last week, we realized that we've come a long way with skills. Dr. Sullivan, you know this, and I know several members of this board. But in order for our people to really compete at a high level, we're going to have to continue to make investments and continue to make some adjustments and streamline the process so that so they can have a competitive advantage. And so looking forward to doing that and looking forward to supporting those students as they prepare for nationals in June.
Question for you, and perhaps some in the audience, Jimmy, given your history with Skills USA, is this the largest group we've sent to nationals?
Sullivan, this is, I have been around workforce development my entire career. And this event is the most incredible thing I've ever had the opportunity to experience. If you've never seen it, it's a great opportunity to go. But if you're going to be looking for funding and you want to support this moving forward, we might want to consider someone from the state or a key legislator to take somebody up there and see it. You can't explain what it is. There's no way to explain it. And I can tell you, it is like nothing I've ever seen before. And we compete in national craft championships all over the place. Nothing compares to this.
Great suggestion. I was just having a conversation last night with Representative Ken Brass, who knows this industry sector about as well as anybody in the building. And he would be a perfect representative. I certainly will reach out to him. Great suggestion.
be remiss if I didn't give a huge shout out and debt of gratitude to Chancellor Saltel and his staff. They hosted the Skills USA tournament last week, and they will host it again next year, 100% in person. I'll knock on some wood. April 18th through the 21st at Central.
Great. Job in itself, hosting. All right, anything else on that?
Quentin, if you don't mind, perhaps you could give the board a quick update on where we are with Foster Promise. I know there's been a lot of activity around it. Obviously, we've heard some updates, but I think more recent updates may be available.
Absolutely. And so we talked a lot over the past several months about the program and the legislature's great gesture and the governor's support for Foster's Promise. But now, as Dr. Sullivan says, the implementation and hard work really begins. And so a team of staff here at the board office, Dr. Amy Cable, Aquina Grant, Landon Corbin, and just a whole host of others have been working collaboratively with LOSFA, as well as the proprietary schools who can compete or who can participate in this space, as well as Sussex, Southern Shreveport, and LSU Eunice. And so we've been doing that work. Happy to say that the application went live somewhere in mid-March. And as of last Friday, the update we received was 1,400 total applications submitted. 509 of those individuals have been deemed eligible to receive the MJ Foster Promise program. Those other 600 or 700 or so individuals who do not qualify for one reason or another is whether they do not meet the income threshold, maybe they have not completed the FAFSA. There are a couple of other issues that prevented them from being eligible. Having said that, that does not mean that we won't continue to go after that group and try to get them enrolled in our colleges. I know, as Amy says so often, our goal in this is to not say no, right? There are an abundance of pots of funding that students can have access to, and just because they don't qualify for Fosters does not mean that they don't qualify for some other form of aid. And so really excited about that work. Also, I think what's important to bring to this board is that our foundation board is in the midst of a 3-year, $5 million fundraising campaign. What I can tell you is that we have raised to date approximately $1.3 million. Really excited to at some point be able to share with you who those donors are. We're not quite there yet, but really excited about the progress that we're making. I don't have a shadow of a doubt that we will raise the $5 million. And I think we're probably going to blow it out of the water, quite frankly, just because of the excitement. I think the energy around this fund, the fact that industry now sees that there is a direct link between having more mature pool of applicants to come in and do some of that really intense work. This is an opportunity for them to have access to that pool of individuals. So really excited about it. And last thing, I'm going to ask that maybe Sarah or Katie can help me. We have some marketing materials that we've been using around MJ Foster's Promise program so that you can see what this looks like. Happy to take any questions.
All right, continuing on with my report, just a reminder to everyone.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
this is Stevie. Before we move off of MJ Foster, so Dr. Sullivan, I believe you had informed us that there were some questions raised about the, I guess, the appropriateness of raising private dollars for MJ Foster. And there was also some other discussions about whether it was the last dollar in or the last dollar out. I assume all those have been resolved?
Sir, they have. In fact, we have made the determination both unilaterally, bilaterally, and multilaterally that we can raise funds around the Foster Promise program. Did I say that correctly? Got it. Thank you.
I'm not sure what all that means, but I agree. Yeah, that's a good end. And I thought you'd mentioned, but that's worth saying out loud that has been resolved because that's a very practical solution. I'm glad to hear that.
Sir.
Just a reminder that everyone's invited to attend the 2022 Louisiana PTK All-State Academic Team Recognition Ceremony. That'll be held virtually at 10:00 a.m. on April 22nd. Let Sarah know if you want to attend and she can provide you with some details. May will be the final meeting for our 2021-22 student board members whom I met for the first time yesterday. And I met Roman Hardy for the first time, and he's this morning, correct? And he's been on the board for 2.5 years. I've been coming to the meetings, okay? But anyway, May will be the final meeting for our student board members. Both are graduating from their respective colleges, and we want to honor them before they graduate. Supervisors Kuvion and Pickron have been active members of the board for their year's term and have represented this board and our system well while also serving as leaders of their respective colleges. We wish them well on their future endeavors. Each of them will be presented a plaque that reads, "The Board of Supervisors of the Louisiana Community and Technical College System wish to recognize and thank Haley Pickron and Josh Kuvion." They'll have separate plaques for their service as a community college student representative / technical college student representative to the LCTCS Board of Supervisors for 2021, 2022. So we would like to ask y'all at this time if you have something you would like to address the board to say. Haley, you can go first.
Okay, so I remember the first Zoom meeting I had, one of my words or one of the things that I said was, I cannot wait to meet all of you in person. And I am so thankful that this is my last meeting and I've met a few of you and I hope to meet the rest of you after the meeting, but I'm so thankful to be here. I'm thankful for my school, Dr. Bateman, for always supporting me. This is just an honor and it's very sentimental because I'm also graduating. So I'm thankful for this opportunity. So thank you.
Tell them what you're graduating.
Oh, yes. So I am general studies major and I will graduate in May and I will transfer to Northwestern to get general studies and then go into higher education. I'll get a master's in higher education. So I'm super excited for that. And hopefully, fingers crossed, I get to work at, I believe, one of the best colleges ever, Bossier Parish Community College. That's my school. So hopefully I'll get that opportunity.
Remember that.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, ma'am. Josh?
So I just want to start off by saying thank you to the entire board, my chancellors. This experience truly was something that I did not expect to get into with student government, but it was everything that I probably ever could have wished for. Just the leadership, the knowledge that I've gained from the entire system, knowing kind of what goes into the community and technical college system is, like I said, something I never planned for, but it's also something I found a really deep love for. So even though I am in nursing and graduating in May, I don't think my higher education journey is quite over yet. I am pursuing a few different possibilities into that. But as of right now, I am hopefully, fingers crossed, Monday interviewing for the behavioral health unit at Cabrini in Alexandria. So fingers crossed on that. But like I said, just thank you to the board. Thank you to everyone from the system, my chancellors, all the colleges in the system. It has been an amazing, amazing ride.
Good. Thank you, Josh. I'd like to get a picture. Y'all step out to the front, please. Somebody doesn't tell me different. I think that concludes my report.
Yes, without a doubt. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the board and members of the stakeholders of our community and technical college system, thank you again for taking the time to be here today. It is truly refreshing to be back in this seat and to have an opportunity to see each one of you, to have an opportunity to kind of think back on where we've been over the last couple of years. It has been quite a journey, but at the same time, we know that at no time in my career, and I suspect in yours, has there been a greater demand for what we do than today. From healthcare, if you were down at the Capitol right now in health and welfare, you probably would be having a conversation about healthcare workforce. If you're at the Capitol right now having a conversation in House Education, you'd be having a discussion about workforce. Everybody is talking about what you and I get an opportunity to do every day. From broadband to healthcare, it seems as though it never ends. Economic development announcements. Just yesterday, Chancellor Metter, in fact, with a prospect in Northwest Louisiana. These colleges are engaged at a level with their local communities that is driving growth and driving prosperity for our people. That's what community and technical colleges are all about. So excited to be back in the room today, and certainly excited to see each one of you. Let me begin with a huge announcement. And I hope that our friends at Delgado Community College and PepsiCo give me just 1 second here. I'm going to try to make it through all of the names and recognize everyone that is involved here. But as you know, it has become just incredible to watch the number of organizations that contribute to our colleges because they believe in the mission. And in this instance, PepsiCo Foundation is here today to make an announcement of a contribution to Delgado Community College. And in particular, the guests that we have with us, in addition to Chancellor Staub, are Victoria White, the Territory Manager for Frito-Lay Southeastern Region, Mary Claire, Human Resources Associate Manager for Frito-Lay Southeast Region, Sierra Anderson, Customer Account Manager for Frito-Lay Southeast Region, Paula Hopkins, Senior Director of Strategy, PepsiCo Beverage South Division, Melissa Martin, Sales Manager for Louisiana PepsiCo Beverage South Division, Jasmine Pleasant, General Manager, Market Director for Louisiana PepsiCo Beverage South Division, and Jamil Lacey, who is a Senior Manager for PepsiCo Foundation. So what I'd like to do at this point is ask maybe if the group, or I believe, let's see, Paula, if you'd like to come forward, and Chancellor Staub to make a quick presentation and describe the investment that is being made. Chancellor? It's exciting. You guys brought the house. I like it. You know, everybody wanted to be a part. That's great.
Morning. Good morning, Chairman Price, Dr. Sullivan, and members of the board. I am absolutely thrilled this morning to be amongst partners as well as friends of Delgado Community College and this strategic investment PepsiCo Foundation has made to Delgado related to scholarships for people of color, minorities. The scholarships will involve not only tuition, but also wrapping their arms around them in so many ways. We know that our students face home insecurities, food insecurities, childcare, transportation. What this scholarship will provide is access to funds that will enable them to complete. It will also provide resources related to mentorships, resources related to internships. This $450,000 investment is investing into the students of Delgado Community College, and I am absolutely thrilled to be a chancellor. I've already told them that we have the best board of supervisors in the country, so I'm absolutely thrilled to be a chancellor and to be amongst this outstanding group of individuals and PepsiCo Foundation. So with that, I'll hand it over to Dr. Paula Hopkins, who is the Senior Director of PepsiCo.
Thank you so much, Chancellor Sides, and to the Board of Supervisors and everyone in the room. We want to let you know we're excited not only to be here, we're also proud to work for an organization that after Mr. George Floyd's death, our chairman and CEO, Ramon, said that he was putting forth $570 million to invest in Black and Hispanic communities, people, and businesses. Part of that cornerstone initiative was our Uplift Scholarship. We chose 20 colleges across the nation, and I'm proud to say that Chancellor Stibe was one of those colleges at Delgado Community College. And this funds, as she mentioned, will not only support education, but also getting our people back to work. And we're hoping they're coming to work at Pepsi and Frito-Lay, and obviously the colleges in the nation. We chose the college for a couple of reasons. And three that stood out to me that I'll share with you today is that when we looked at Delgado Community College, we said it was about life, it was about legacy and leadership. When I think about life, I think about the fact that the college mission obviously is to meet the students where they are, changing demographics of our workforce. As Chancellor Stibe says in her welcome letter, this education works for you. And they have to work for it, but they're going to make it so over 15,000 students have the opportunity, whether it's online, whether it's where they are, and to receive a certificate or a degree. When I think about legacy, it speaks for itself. Last year, you celebrated 100 years, rich history of diversity, rich history of giving back to the community where you live in. And then last but not least was the leadership that we saw. From the first meeting we went to, we saw not only innovative leadership, we saw a diverse leadership of faculty, staff, and administration, and more importantly, just support of the community and trust of the community. So we are proud to sponsor and support you in your mission and your vision. And as we both want to give back to our communities we live and work in, and we have a responsibility not only to the state, the nation, and ultimately the world. So proud to wear your colors today and proud to offer you the check for $450,000.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Perhaps we'll get a picture.
Understand for our YouTube viewers, you cannot hear anything, but just know we are taking a photo.
Great. Thank you very much. Always appreciate the support and nice touch in wearing the green, showing up here for Delgado. We got to get you a Dolphin shirt, right, Chancellor? Thank you, guys. Very much appreciated. I'd like at this time to turn to one of our own, someone who has distinguished himself not only as a member of this board, not only as a former chair of this board, and not only as a national member of the ACCT board, but has been elected recently as the incoming chair of ACCT. But I want to focus on the work that he does outside of his board work as an environmental attorney, and that is Supervisor Tim Hardy. He had the privilege of serving on the Governor's Climate Task Force, not only serving as a member of that group, but also as a chair of one of the subcommittees, coming forward with recommendations that I think will have huge implications for the state of Louisiana going forward. But I've asked him specifically to talk about the climate initiative, but to talk about it in the context now of what does this mean for our colleges? What does it mean from a workforce perspective? What does it mean from our own carbon footprint perspective? How do we become more environmentally conscious as an organization? So with that, you represent this board exceptionally well. Supervisor Hardy, thank you for all that you do on behalf of this board. I'll turn to you.
Sullivan, thank you so very much. About a year and a half ago, and I will try to be brief because there's a lot's happened in a year and a half, but we have work to do today. But a year and a half ago, Governor John Bell Edwards, by executive order, named his Climate Initiative Task Force. And the primary goal of the task force was to reduce greenhouse gases based upon 2005 levels to about 50% by 2030 and net zero by 2050. This was a huge deal. 23-member task force named members from the agencies primarily that have some function over environment, over energy in Louisiana, members from academia, members from the community. And I was very honored that I got a call from the president of the Senate, Paige Cortez, and asked if I would be his designee on the committee. So I became a full voting member of that committee. We had several subcommittees under that. I was also named co-chair of manufacturing and industry, of which we have another supervisor, Supervisor Roman Hardy was on that committee as well. And I appreciate his service and his contributions. I was also a member of the Legal Advisory Committee, so I think I was on probably more committees than anybody on the task force. But again, I was very, very honored. It was a lot of work. And let me just say this about the whole notion of climate change. Some years ago, it was theoretical. Some years ago, people wondered if it was real. Well, I think if I talk to some of the people that are in this audience, especially Chancellor Aspinwall, you'll recognize that in the area of Lake Charles, there were 4 disaster declarations in about a year. That's never happened anywhere in America in our history. Has there been 4? We have wildfires. We've had tornado issues 3 weeks in a row in Louisiana. Hurricanes are worse. Flooding is worse. There was a time in the Northeast when there were questions whether or not aid should be given to Louisiana until they have flooding. So I think there's very little doubt that climate change is something that's very real and something that we face. The question is, what do we do about it? And more importantly, what role can we have in addressing it? Well, the task force did so much work. We had strategies, we adopted a plan, and just very briefly, what that plan included was that we sort of transition to what we call clean energy. Decarbonization is one of the things we have to do because if you look at greenhouse gases, that's what we think causes what we call global warming. And we've gotten away from so much the use of global warming to climate change. We have to manage emissions like methane emissions. Transportation plays a huge role. How do we do smarter with our transportation, with our mobile sources? Wetland loss, huge problem in Louisiana. It's been a problem for ages. We need a low carbon economy. We need to collaborate, and as much we need to talk to our citizens, the locals that bear the brunt of flooding, of tornadoes, of all the things that are happening as a result of climate change. Look at climate change. Species are disappearing around the world. Lands are no longer habitable. Growing of crops has been impacted. So this is something real. Now, as I serve on ACCT, one of the things that I stress, especially to that board, is that we in Louisiana have special challenges because of our location, because New Orleans is below sea level, and we have a great community college system. I think Supervisor Hardy will agree that the other taller, better looking one, right? Will agree that you have an engineer needs 2 or 3 technicians. That's what we do. So as we transition to renewables, to wind, to geothermal, to solar, to these renewable resources, we can be key in doing the training to help those companies ratchet up to the new world. Also, there are possibilities that we can impact our own footprint. There are some discussions undergoing right now where we might be able to be smarter in the way we use energy. in what we can do. And I think in terms of higher education, we ought to take the lead in some of that. So I don't want to bore you with too much science. I could talk about the greenhouse gas effect and all of that, but I will say this is, as far as I'm concerned, the issue of our time. Some would argue that we're past the tipping point. I don't think we are, but to preserve our planet, we have to act and act now. Social justice is an issue. COVID is an issue. Nuclear annihilation is an issue. I think this is as big as any of them. So with that, Dr. Sullivan, thank you for allowing me to have some time to speak. I didn't mean to shake people up very much, but this is real. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, Supervisor Hardy. Perhaps I'll turn to Supervisor Roman Hardy and ask if he has anything to add.
So thanks for the opportunity. I do agree with you that Supervisor Hardy surfaced very well on this board. For those that don't know, I work for Shell. I won't go to all the details that Supervisor Hardy elaborated on. What I will say is that Louisiana is uniquely positioned to provide some may perceive it to be a threat because it's a change from what we've done historically. It can thrive even more so than other states. I do think we will need to provide a different workforce, a workforce that understands more about digitalization and technology, along with the many other things we go do. But to the extent there's fear, I think we should embrace it. I think not only from our traditional role of the Mississippi River, the role of agriculture will become a key part of the energy system, initially through first generation feedstocks that like soybean and others, but initially in other feedstocks. Shell is actively investing in all the things we're describing here in the state of Louisiana, from carbon capture and storage to new sources of low carbon energy. And community college system can be key to providing the workforce of the future.
Very good. Thank you. If you just think about hearing a representative from a major organization like Shell make that comment that you just made, it tells you that Louisiana, not only are we positioned to be able to take advantage of this, we will. There's no question. And appreciate the leadership from both of you, your representation of both this body as well as many, many others across Louisiana. Thank you for your service. I want to turn now and ask if Chancellor Smith will be able to join us at the table. As you drove in today, you probably noted that campus looks a little different. There are a number of things going on here at Baton Rouge Community College that I'd like to ask Chancellor Smith to give us an update on, and hopefully you'll be able to find your way to your vehicle and out of the parking lot after Chancellor Smith finishes his description. So, Chancellor, I'll turn to you.
Thank you, Dr. Sullivan, Mr. Chairman, Board of Supervisors. Let me first say I want to apologize this morning. While I want to talk about our great progress, Stevie Toot reminded me this morning that we probably should have gave better instruction to the board on where to park. So I apologize, Supervisor Toot.
We lost your car.
Yeah. Thank you for this opportunity. And Brandon's showing you guys a bigger picture of what's going on at BRCC Mid-City footprint. For a number of years, we have been trying to close and redirect traffic on Community College Drive. Dr. Sullivan tasked me with making sure I did this, and hope this goes well in my evaluation, Dr. Sullivan, that we can notch one of those out my evaluation. I did achieve this. But he did, and to his leadership, I appreciate him for pushing us, but also supporting us. We did not know at the time that, I did not know when I got at the time that the city had already passed an ordinance to approve us to close the road. But what did not happen was, on talking to our neighbors, McDonald's, the grocery store, and those sort of things. So I started meeting with the traffic engineer for the city. And he said, man, this is going to be a nightmare trying to close the road because nobody has talked to the businesses. So I did. I took the courage to go out and talk to them and tell them what it meant to me, to my evaluation, excuse me. But certainly to the safety and the welfare of our students, being able to leave the east side where our garage is at, to come to this building, our Cypress building, our Bienvenue building, student service building. For years, we have had manpower out that just sat out there, you saw, that just sat there just directing traffic. we could have used a better saving those resources through our campus to add more faculty and staff, quite frankly, to do some things different. So we're excited on the progress that we have made. Certainly want to thank the city of Baton Rouge, Mayor Broom and her team, who completed all the striping and the road sign for free. We're currently working with Forte and Tablata, who's the designer of the roadway, who's designing the road as we speak. And we anticipate late this summer, construction is going to begin. And so I ask you to bear with us again, Supervisor Toops, because we're going to have to open the roads up for a little while until we divert the traffic to get this thing going. So as you see on the screen there, this is the major footprint that the road is going to be a ring road around the college, which is safer for our students to be able to access the footprint and thoroughfare. But also it's going to be very, very exciting when we build our new nursing and allied health building, that the actual street is going to go outside of that building, because we'll have a clinic associated with our partnership with Our Lady of the Lake to be able to draw student interest in trafficking. And so this building is going to face Florida Boulevard. If you have not seen what's going on in Baton Rouge, that's a big movement to improve the infrastructure of Florida Boulevard. And we're excited to be able to get those resources to do the road project, but also complete our nursing and allied health building. So I'm excited to bring that to your attention, but I'm also understand my apology to my colleagues and all the guests who had to find areas to park, but we bear with our progress, so to speak. So thank you, and thank you, Dr. Sullivan, for allowing me to share, and I welcome any question or comment that you may have of me.
Any questions for Chancellor Smith? Very good. I appreciate your work on this one. Thank you. If I could, I'd like to ask Chancellor Strickland to join us at the table, and we have a very special presentation that we'd like to share with the board. We mentioned a few minutes ago that we have board members that engage well outside of this board on areas like the environment. But we also have board members who engage in other ways as well. And so I'd like to ask Chancellor Strickland, if she will, to update us on the latest in training for our Board of Supervisors.
Absolutely. Chairman Price, President Sullivan, members of the board, thank you for allowing me a few minutes to recognize someone very special to Fletcher Technical Community College. Annually in December, we host our Chancellor's Breakfast, and it's an opportunity for us to recognize all of the good things that are happening in our community, but most importantly, some individuals who really do so much for our institution and continue to support our mission. This year, one of our recipients was not able to be with us at the Chancellor's Breakfast, but fortunately, he is sitting at the table with you all, and that would be Supervisor Smith. And so we wanted to take the opportunity to recognize him publicly for everything that he has done for Fletcher, for LCTCS. We wanted to do that in front of our community. And since we didn't have that opportunity, we wanted to do it in front of this group, who I know we all very much love and respect Supervisor Smith for his support of our institutions. So Supervisor Smith, it's my pleasure and honor on behalf of Fletcher Technical Community College to recognize you as the individual of the year for our college.
Smith, you are one of the more recent graduates of a program at Fletcher Technical Community College. You want to share with the board your experience?
That's right. We did forklift training last Friday, as a matter of fact. That is right. You know, and I don't know, Sarah, how did you know that they sent me an email? Like literally, I got an email on my phone and you were texting me saying that I'm a student at Fletcher, because I got a student ID number and all that stuff, because I signed up for a course, and I got an email on my phone saying, you know, congratulations for registering and all that stuff. And literally 2 seconds later, I get a text from her saying, congratulations for your enrollment.
Well, in Banner, all of you on the board have me as your secondary email in Banner so that we can protect your security and safety. And so it just so happened that if any of you apply, once you're accepted, I will get a notification. Also, I'm like your parent in Banner.
Supervisor Smith, I hear there are a few vacancies down the Bayou to warehouse, in case that becomes of interest to you.
You know, literally on Monday of this week, I was at another facility. I was watching a guy drive a forklift. I'm like, man, I can do that.
So good stuff. All right. Thank you very much.
Everybody. Thank you, Christine, and to you and your team.
Thank you. All right, let's do the round the horn with the college updates. Ready? Here we go. Starting out at Bossier Parish Community College, 2 dual enrollment students who have recently earned special recognition. The first student, 16-year-old Brianna Cooley, has been named to the 2022 All-USA Academic Team and New Century Transfer Scholar. The All-USA program is widely recognized as the most prestigious academic honor for students attending associate degree granting institutions. Brianna earned $7,500 in scholarships and these honors, along with these honors, and she'll be recognized as a part of the AACC conference in New York coming up in early May. Another BIPSI dual enrollment student stand out is 14-year-old Isaac Schmedley. Did I get that correct? Okay, who will graduate from Bossier Parish Community College next month with an associate degree in general science, and he has already been admitted as a transfer student to LSU Health Science Center. Very good, good stuff. All right, jumping down to another item at Bossier Parish Community College. I guess it's probably been about 3 weeks ago now. Our own Chancellor Rick Bateman had the opportunity to meet and interact with Vice President Kamala Harris. Represented the system quite well. On her visit to Louisiana, March 21st, Chancellor Bateman spoke with the Vice President and with Governor Edwards about the ways that our colleges are preparing the workforce essential to realize potential of historic investments in broadband expansion. Thank you, Chancellor Bateman. At Delgado Community College on February 21st, Delgado held their 3rd annual Building Futures Construction, Automotive, and Culinary Solutions fundraiser. Well, that's lumping together a few content areas, right? We're going to eat, we're going to get our car fixed, and what's the other one? Yeah, there you go, construction, right? So great fundraiser, 3rd annual, 198 attendees at Galatoire's, raising over $93,000. Chancellor, congratulations. I know the first time that event was held, I know that you kind of had expectations were really kind of uncertain. So that's become yet another great fundraiser at Delgado. The keynote speaker was none other than Lieutenant Governor Billy Nungesser, and great crowd, great time was had ball. Also at Delgado, the Conrad Hilton Foundation awarded the college $1.9 million in the Opportunity Youth Program in Allied Health and Hospitality. Congratulations, as that is a program that we know is in exceptional need, given the fact both with the healthcare focus, but also with that out-of-school youth population. In addition, at Louisiana Delta, Robert Jordan, the automotive instructor at the West Monroe campus, was approached by Ebony Magazine to do an auto mechanic podcast. Our faculty member doing an auto mechanic podcast on the Ebony platform. That's pretty cool. That doesn't happen very often. And in this instance, you had the faculty member who was approached by someone from Ebony, not the faculty member pursuing the PR opportunity, but instead someone who sees something very practical, sees an opportunity to educate their readership. So excited about that opportunity for both the faculty member, for the college, as well as for the public at large. In addition, at Northwest Louisiana Technical Community College, it was recognized as the Business of the Year by the Greater Mendon-Webster Chamber of Commerce at their annual banquet held April 5th. And in addition to that, Chancellor Metter was recognized by our friends at NELP as, I don't remember the exact title, I think it was Innovator of the Year. What was the title? You recall, Earl? We'll stick with Innovator of the Year. How about that? Very good. Very good. And at North Shore Technical Community College in 2020, Slidell High senior Caleb Page was diagnosed with terminal brain cancer. After being accepted to his first choice university, Caleb chose North Shore Technical Community College to continue his higher education journey and fiercely battled cancer. Caleb lost his battle with cancer 4 days after completing his final exams in the first fall semester. Taped to his door was the email from his math professor, Ms. Beth Alford, congratulating him for successful completion of the semester. Since his passing, parents Lisa and David Page have decided to honor Caleb through a $66,000 donation to the North Shore College Enhancement Foundation for the purchase of a memorial bench, support for student scholarships, and the establishment of a professorship in math with a concentration in STEM studies. If you think faculty don't have an impact on people's lives every day, read the stories, know the stories. Congratulations, Chancellor Wainwright. Congratulations to faculty member Alford for just having the heart to take care of people. The work that we do every day is not easy work, but it's meaningful. And examples just like this. This young man didn't survive cancer, but I can tell you this, it was that faculty member who made the days of surviving cancer that he did have better. That's important. Thank you. At River Parishes Community College, partnering with Greenfield Exports, a company that is in the process of constructing a new state-of-the-art export grain facility located on the West Bank in St. John the Baptist Parish near Wallace, Louisiana. Some of you know where Wallace, Louisiana is, right? This new partnership will include customized onboarding, testing services, training, and scholarship opportunities for individuals from West St. John High School in St. John the Baptist Parish. Congratulations to Chancellor Carlson and all the great work that is going on across all of our colleges. With that, Mr. Chairman, that concludes the President's report. I'll turn back to you.
Sir. Great report. Board development, are you doing that?
Yes, sir. We will do board development now. Thank you.
Okay.
I'll remember that one of these days, right? Okay. So board development is a segment that we have traditionally used to kind of feature a policy related item that we know we're going to be dealing with at some point down the line. And in this instance, it is a policy change that took place at our Board of Regents this past month. Our Board of Regents took steps to enact a policy to create co-requisite courses. Those co-requisite courses have bleed over impact to much of our mission. Developmental education. Some have described this policy change from Regents as an elimination of developmental education. If you think of that, that can be a bit frightening because part of our mission, a substantial part of our mission, is remediation. So what I'd like to do at this point is ask a couple of our staff members to come forward to walk you through a little bit of the change that has occurred around what we might refer to as foundational education. Foundational education in the sense that it includes both developmental, as well as the co-requisite model, as well as the traditional adult basic education kind of instruction. At the table with us today, we have Amy Cable. Dr. Cable is Chief Student Affairs Officer, and Dr. Wendy Palermo, who's Chief Academic Workforce Training Officer for the system. In addition, their colleague, Erin Landry, who's not able to be with us today because she's at a national COABE conference, has been instrumental in this work along with these two. So with that, I'll turn over to you for a quick update to the board.
Well, good morning, Chair Price, members of the board, and of course, Dr. Sullivan, thank you for the opportunity to be here. In our fashion, we like to embrace technology. So actually our colleague, Miss Erin Landry, is attending this by Zoom. So hope working that we will turn it over to her for slide 7.
Hey, good morning, everyone. I'm here from Seattle, but thanks for having me. I just want to start off with giving us a little context around the foundational educational needs in Louisiana. There has been an international study of adult skills across developed nations, and the United States has been slipping over the past couple of decades. But what's of most concern to me and all of us is that Louisiana, unfortunately, ranks last in the nation in both literacy and numeracy skills. So nationally, 18% of adults have low literacy skills, and in Louisiana, that's 27%. Nationally, 30% of adults have low math skills, and then in Louisiana, that's 42%. And this obviously has implications for education, post-secondary education, but also employment.
This is where developmental education plays a role in addressing low literacy and numeracy in Louisiana and our role at LCTCS. So just a little background. For many of us in this room who went to university or college, you probably remember the old model where there were standalone remedial courses that maybe started with like 098. 099, where individuals were taking an ACT or an AccuPlacer at one point in their educational background, and because of that placement, they were placed in a course through remedial courses. So then there came some research started to kind of come out where a co-requisite modality was starting to become more and more common. So in 2018, LCTCS had the LCTCS Student Success Task Force look into it and actually made recommendations to transition to a co-requisite model for developmental courses. But remember, this was a recommendation that was to the colleges. So the system staff worked along the colleges at that time to kind of, do little pulse checks. Are you embracing this model? What are you doing? What does it look like? Do you have metrics, things of that nature? So then in 2020, the Louisiana Board of Regents was then awarded a grant from Strong Start to Finish focused on also looking at developmental education reform. The March of 2022, last month, the Board of Regents voted to transition all developmental courses to a co-requisite modality, not leaving it as a recommendation, but more of a requirement. So this has kind of been coming for the past few years. But remember, LCTCS in 2018 had already started investigating this modality. So this is an infographic that really depicts what nationally it looks like in the realm of mathematics. So nationally, 52% of individuals require remedial math. In Louisiana, that number is 56%. This is an actual excerpt that Dr. Tristan Denley presented at Regents last month. And I thought it was a pretty interesting slide. So I reached out to him to make sure it's like, hi, I just want to clarify, this is Louisiana data. He said, absolutely. I said, can I show our Board of Supervisors? So I won't go into it in great detail, but the essentially what it says is the standalone, the old model. If there were 100 students that took a standalone remedial course, only 11 would actually progress through that old model to actually pass a college level mathematics course. So that was pretty glaring, and I wanted to also bring it forward to the Board of Supervisors just to kind of reflect. You know, instead of doing a great data dump, is what we call it, the system office, really wanted to show you what it looked like. So now I'll turn it over to you, Ms. Landry.
Thanks, Wendy. So adult education is another area where we're trying to work on remediating those basic skills across Louisiana. And for context, adult education is authorized and funded through the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. We're Title II of that act. Sometimes when folks hear about adult education, they assume that we only serve 18-year-olds who just dropped out of high school, when in actuality, our average age is 33. We serve folks who have high school diplomas and don't have high school diplomas, and we have a multi-tiered mission. So we definitely work on basic skills and help folks get to a high school equivalency. We help them prepare for college and post-secondary transition. We have a large mission around English as a second language. We work on workforce preparation skills, so time management, critical thinking, digital literacy, financial literacy, to make sure that when people are in the workplace that they're successful. We can do workplace literacy in collaboration with employers on the job to make sure that people, again, have the skills to be successful to not only retain employment, but to advance in careers. We can blend our services with occupational skills training through integrated education and training. And we also have a large footprint in correctional education to make sure that folks get the skills they need to be successful once they return to their communities. The Adult Education Network in Louisiana obviously includes our colleges, but we run an open competition. And so we have 22 currently providers across the state that offer services. That's nonprofit providers, school systems, our colleges that work in collaboration to make sure that everyone across the state has access to quality services. And then I just wanted to give you a little bit of a insight as to who our student populations are when they come to us in Louisiana. So I've broken this down by skill level upon entry. And so about 7% of our students actually come to us with reading, writing, and math skills at the K to second grade level. And 39% are at the 3rd to 5th grade level, 35% are at the 6th to 8th grade level. 9% are at that traditional high school level, and about 10% are in English as a second language programming. This is for the past fiscal year. I will tell you again, for context, that our English as a second language population dipped dramatically during the pandemic, and it is actually very difficult to do ESL instruction remotely. But we hope that that population comes back to us as we return to more normal educational circumstances. And then we're going to move on to sort of a discussion of how both developmental and adult education are funded.
I'll take this slide. So as you can see, a little over 13 million, really closer to $14 million is generated because of tuition and fees. About $800,000 is funded through our state. And if you got Miss Erin Landry off to the side, she would share with you quite vividly how underfunded adult education is, but I'll leave that discussion for her later. But we just wanted to make sure to depict, how these dollars are collected and how we're actually serving students. Miss Landry.
If I may add just a very quick point, for those of you that were in the Internal Audit Committee meeting earlier, you'll notice that we provided to you an institutional health index that showed the cost per credit hour and revenue per credit hour. This model, the developmental education model, still relies upon that. The adult basic education model does not. Very different. And so you have two different customer lines, if you will, or product lines that are coming forward, and you have very different revenue streams for those two and very different cost infrastructure. So it's a really important point for us to make sure that we're planning from a resource point of view as to how we serve this mission.
Thanks. And just to explain a bit on the adult education front, we are not funded per student. We do not charge tuition and fees. All of our funds either come through federal allocation or state allocation. And so the federal allocation breaks down into a number of different pots in which we have to fund programs competitively. It comes to total around 12 million across all of our funding streams. And then Wendy is going to talk through some policy shifts that affect the implementation of developmental education.
So this infographic that you're looking at actually came from an article published in Community College literature. And so it really is a conceptual model, if you will. The left side of the screen is that if you had 100 students who enrolled in that standalone remedial program, or that whether it be mathematics or English, you're going to have about only 20% of those students would be successful at the college level. And then moving over to the right side of the screen, the co-requisite model is predicted that 20% could go as high as 60%. And remember, once those students are successful at the college level at the co-requisite, the predictability that they'll continue on to completion of their program is much greater versus losing them through frustration, that their path is too long. It goes from a model of saying what you don't know to saying, let us help you become successful. And so that is what they're saying is going to have the greater impact on students. It's not academics, but it's actually us taking some wraparound services for these students to help them be successful to ultimately achieve the goal. So we do have a little bit of a runway. Board of Regents has been very wonderful to work with, even though they've rolled this out, is that we have for mathematics, the start date for the requirement of co-requisite model is fall of 2023. In English, fall of 2024. So we also invited Dr. Denley to attend our PAC meeting yesterday. He was gracious enough to come in and talk to us. And one of the things in speaking with our colleges and some concerns was maybe that if this model works, which he's very confident, and we're confident that it will work. We will make it work. But what can we do to come alongside our colleges? And that is faculty professional development. So we've already engaged him in identifying, not telling us how it works, but actually working with faculty in states like Georgia, Tennessee, saying, can we get with those content experts, those faculty experts who have gone from this, traditional standalone model to a co-requisite model and working with our faculty in the trenches? Absolutely not a problem. So we're actually working on that because we still, even though we have a runway, we want to make sure that our faculty are supported 100% moving forward. Why co-requisite matters, just to wrap it up and summarize, is to increase our number of students college level mathematics and or an English course. We would like to increase the retention and graduation rates of our students, and then remove access and outcomes for Louisiana students. Also want to talk about another policy kind of in the same vein that also passed through last month was this academic affairs policy of 2.23 prior learning assessment. You may have heard it called credit for prior learning. So what it essentially did was it took our students, our non-traditional students who may have been working in a profession. I'm going to make one up here, say an electrician. They've been working as an electrician for many, many years. They come to the college. There's a route for them to earn credit for prior learning where they don't have to take maybe intro into this profession. So through that, that's a wonderful route to engage students if they want to earn an associate's degree or a technical diploma. Problem historically has been that if our student is awarded credit, that they would, if they wanted to pursue a 4-year degree, that maybe they were hit barriers in the 4-year or another institute of higher education would say, you need to go back and give us all the information regarding that credential and things like that. And it was just kind of a slight barrier. So this Regents policy says that moving forward, once credit is awarded and on the transcript, that it has to be received as such by the receiving institution. So it's really just aimed at removing barriers for students in our system and others to transfer to and from institutions of higher education. So I just wanted to make sure.
Thank you to Dr. Cable, to Dr. Palermo, and to Aaron Landry. Any questions from board members on co-requisite? Yes, sir.
Thank you for the presentation. And again, I'm just trying to wrap my head around this and not get into the weeds, but as you pointed out, students are maybe at the lowest developmental math level. I don't know what you call it, 001. And then they may have 3 developmental courses. Does this mean that student at that, say, 3rd grade math level is going to be placed in a college level math course simultaneously? I mean, so that I'm having trouble wrapping my head around that.
It is new. It's a new modality, and you're absolutely right. The student has the option, if they don't want to pursue adult education through Miss Erin Landry's sector or division, is that yes, they would be in a college level math course, but don't forget they're going to have that remedial supplemental course that they'll be doing in tandem. So at the same time, they're registered, say, if for a college level contemporary math or college algebra, they would also be co-enrolled or would be in a course that goes from maybe 3 credit hours to maybe a 5 credit hour, or maybe they're going to be in or college level math with like a 2-hour remedial course.
My next question. So is it one course or does the model vary? For example, at one college, college level course, or you're in one course that incorporates the remedial.
Now it varies. So some of our colleges may have a combined one class, a 3-2, which would be a 5 credit, and then some may have a 3 credit that they'll do in tandem or co-requisite at the same time with another remedial course. Conversation with Dr. Denley yesterday during it, and I hate to put him on the spot, but it was Dr. Aspinwall and I were visiting with him. Correct me if I'm wrong, but maybe it is going to be, one of the recommendations would be to look at which is the best model for our student success. And it very well could be getting away from the 5-hour one course to a 3-hour and then taking a separate 2-hour remedial course at the same time. So, and we'll get into the weeds with that with our colleges and in conversation with Dr. Denley to make sure that what model we do look at is going to be the best for success for our students. But it's really looking like a 3 and a 2.
Yeah. Just to add to that, Wendy, I think this is also an opportunity for us to really rethink how we provide wraparound academic supports beyond just the credit hour structure. And so there's opportunity for us to really build supports for that someone who is maybe testing at a lower skill level, but the placement tests are not always the best prediction of how of someone's ability to be successful in those courses. So we have an opportunity to build something interesting and good for students.
Oh, I also have a question, from a student perspective. The first question I have too, are you worried that if they're taking two classes, this might affect like them failing both classes? Like, is that if they're already struggling and have to take prereq, clearly math isn't their strong, for example, math. So would that be a fear that they would fail both classes, or is this going to help them better in both classes?
That's a good question, because obviously that is a concern, but research is showing us that students are going to have greater success because they're taking them at the same time. So if you're covering content in the college level math, that the to you about this and maybe give a little bit of an extra so that they are successful. I mean, the goal is that they would be successful. And in this model, historically, you're going to see it is a new modality. It's new, and we're not saying that, it's taken us years.
Oh, and then my second question is with is it like, when students think about going to a 2-year university, they expect to be done in 2 years. I know when you add remedial courses, it does add on a possibly extra semester. With this, would this help where they would
Yeah.
graduate?
Yeah, it really would, because before the standalone remedial courses would be, you have to take a prereq. So I'm just going to use the numbers that I'm most familiar with. So the first remedial course could be 098. Well, you would take that in the fall. 099 in the spring. And then you wouldn't really be into the college level. If you chose to go in the summer, it would be a 3 semester model. You would be, first semester would be in that co-requisite model class. So once you finish that, then you, what we would say, claw away time for the student. Mhm.
Guys, try one of
Professing
the
at
ones on the
me.
side of yours. We have a few that are not working properly.
Okay, so I just want to follow up with what Haley was saying. So as a student, I've gone to LSUA and I've taken 2 remedial maths going into my college math, right? So it in itself is a process. I personally could not imagine doing both. So I do worry about that pass or fail rate. So I know when you broke down the model earlier, you have a certain percentage that are testing at K through 2 skill level, 9 through 5, et cetera. So in my mind, it works that those higher leveled people that are entering the system, that with that 9 through 12 knowledge level, to me, that would make more sense. Those people are going to be the ones I would think are going to be passing, are going to be putting. But what about those people that are on that K through 2 level, that taking 2 math classes is a lot? I'm the first to tell you, I am terrible at math, terrible. But so I couldn't imagine going in with that level, that K through 2 level of knowledge with math, and then saying, hey, take your college algebra and your remedial at the same time. We hope they help. So that to me is the only, just as a student, that's a stressor.
Oh, and that's a good point. And they're fussing at me because I got to make sure to have my microphone to my mouth. That's why we have individuals like Miss Erin Landry. Those are individuals that would probably benefit greatly from our adult education space, where they are actually working. So Miss Erin Landry, I see her nodding her head in agreement. This is that space that would probably be good. So when we come around and we look at our students and we individualize their progress and what they're going to do at the colleges, maybe then it says Miss Erin Landry and her team that they would actually, the student would be maybe directed to adult education, because you got to remember our adult ed divisions are tied to all of our colleges in some capacity, and then they could matriculate on through as well. So if you're reading at like you're saying, like a K through 2nd grade, there's still a space for them at LCTCS. There's still room. That doesn't mean that they're a problem or anything like that. It's just that they need a little extra time. And that's what her division and her team are experts at. And not only are they experts in that, she also works with them so that they may have the opportunity to earn an industry-based certification so that they have earned success. And it's those short, quick successes that they see that we find typically inspires them to continue onto the path to complete their goal. But I will ask Erin if you have anything to add about that, because I know you're pretty passionate about.
Just a little bit. Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think, it's really looking at the student individually and figuring out what their goals are, what their skills are, what barriers they face around testing, and having an honest conversation with, where do we need to start? What supports do we need to wrap around you? And how can you proceed to what your goal is? And so for some students, they may be testing in that K-12 space, but that's not an accurate predictor of their abilities. For some students, it absolutely is. And we need to do a lot of stacking and latticing as far as skills are concerned to get them to a place where they can be academically successful within college coursework. And so it just very much depends. I think the good news is that we as a system have all of the component pieces to help students through that journey. It's just incumbent upon us to make sure that we're braiding them and building them in a way that all students can access all of those services.
Reiterate a point that Erin just made, because we have great lively debate among the staff about this point. When you see grade level, I urge you not to think literal. It's not a literal grade level of K-2, because we automatically think fractions and decimals and the letters of the alphabet, right? What we're learning across time from an assessment point of view is college completion is not about academics. It's about the affective domain. You finished your nursing program because you were darn determined to finish it. And that dosage calculation class, given the fact that you had math challenges, right, probably wasn't easy. But the grit that it took to get through that program was not academic at all, but instead was affective. From an assessment point of view, we don't spend a lot of time in education assessing on the front end the affective domain to gain an understanding of whether somebody has the grit that it takes to finish. So I would not get too caught up on this notion that a student is underprepared. Because what is underprepared? The average student in Louisiana is underprepared. So, all right, let's take that for what it's worth and go forward. The final point that I'll make is in some ways of thinking, education begins with the philosophy of first do no harm. So this notion of putting students into a college course, what is greater harm? Failing the math course or never taking the math course? There's some real interesting questions for us to face, right? There could be students that taking that math course becomes a problem. And in fact, puts them in a position of, I'll never do that again, right? On the other end, you're going to see greater success of students who are walking into the building and able to progress. So it is a shifting sand in many ways. But I'll point out the testing piece of this because you continue to see more and more institutions say test optional. Even our state's flagship is saying test optional. So suddenly tests don't matter quite as much as they used to. But remember when we were handing out $300 million based on TOPS ACT scores? So there's this real big question in everyone's mind now about whether assessment is really as big of a component in student success as we once thought it was. Maybe it is the grit side of things that has more of an impact. How do you put those two together? You see some out there that will look at high school grades as an example for recent graduates as being a better predictor of success. And while you may attend a school that may not have, maybe it's a small rural school and didn't have quite the academic rigor, a 3 times greater predictor of success in college than an ACT score. In the world, would we continue to push test when it's really success in the classroom that drives future success in the classroom? So it certainly is not a one size fits all and not cut and dried from a policy point of view, but this is an area that I think this will advance us as an organization from a discussion point of view in a way that we have been challenged by in the past. So I look forward to this. I think there are real great opportunities ahead of us. Other questions or comments? All right. Thank you, ladies, very much. Appreciate it. With that, Mr. Chairman, I will turn to you for the general action items.
Sir, Supervisor Mound, would you present the academics action items for consideration.
First is academics. Number one, accreditation update.
If we don't mind, Supervisor Mount, I will ask Mr. Bill Tulak and Chancellor Sawtell and Chancellor Metter, if you will, please join Mr. Tulak at the table to give a quick update on accreditation. And perhaps Chancellor Sawtell, you might begin with an update on where we stand with Central Louisiana Technical Community College's accreditation efforts.
Sir, good morning, everyone. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Chair Price and members of the board. If I may start, I want to extend a congratulations to Supervisor Couvillon on an amazing year. One would only need to look at his social media feed and see that he made the most of the last 12 months, and it's with your support. So thank you all very, very much. I would like to start by saying thank you for your continued support of CLTCC. Y'all know where we've come from. We know the challenges ahead and the opportunities with SACS COC. Our accreditation story begins with our COE accreditation, which we're still in the middle of. We had a virtual visit last year. It was very successful. One finding, one commendation, and they're going to come back in August for an in-person visit. The purpose of our visit today has to do with our SACS candidacy. And as you may know, SACS COC, their Board of Trustees looks at new applications in June and in December. We have, our goal was 2023. We were a year ahead of that in terms of submitting our application. And that has always been a stretch goal for 2023. Ideally, we would have liked for it to have been in June. Unfortunately, that timeline did not quite work out for us, and we're going to be submitting that application in December with an even stronger position and an even longer trajectory of fiscal stability. I want to thank this committee. It's a shame that he's walking out the door right now, but Supervisor Murphy once said in this very room, if you see a turtle on a fence post, it did not get there by itself. And we have been that turtle. I can't thank enough those resources that Dr. Sullivan has made available, this board has made available, my colleagues to the left, and every chancellor has weighed in. Every resource that we could employ has been at our disposal, and we're very, very grateful for that. So that brings our timeline to the next, over the course from now into December. We will have our visit in August from the Council on Occupational Education to seal up our reaffirmation, which we believe will be very successful. We have a due date of mid-August for our SACS application to be updated. We're looking at a handful of concerns that they had, nothing that we think is going to be a showstopper in any way. And then the big event is an October 31st due date for our third full scope audit in a row. Very pleased to say that our previous two full scope audits were without any event or without any findings. And then that sets, that is the last domino to fall. And then we would look at a review by SACS COC at their Board of Trustees meeting in December. So with that, that concludes our update. Are there any questions or any comments?
Perhaps let's go ahead and ask Chancellor Metter, if he will, to present on Northwest, and we can address questions afterwards.
Supervisor Price, President Sullivan, Board. I came before you in the February timeline, and I gave you a very optimistic report of our progress. And as sometimes in leadership happens, you go back and you start to look behind the curtains and look at the details, and you got to look at the mirror and have a tough look at where things really are. And that's what we had to do. As we reached our projected timeline of a March application submission, we began to realize we had some serious problems. I approached Dr. Sullivan. Dr. Sullivan, I told him I need some help. This is not working the way it should work. And with that, Dr. Sullivan brought Wendy Palermo to us, and Bill Tulak is taken over. We've stepped back from the process because the challenge we have at Northwest is we're changing the culture of a very technical school that's still steeped in many of the old VOTEC and the classroom level. It is tough to change culture sometimes. So when you look behind the curtain and you start to get deep into it as we move forward with SACS, there were challenges. So with the help of Dr. Palermo, Bill Tulak, we have revamped our team that works with the SACS application. Bill Tulak has been priceless to us in his time with us to train people in the way it needs to be done. We've learned a lot from the Central journey. Central's, a year or so ahead of us, and learning from that, we're able to go back and take some of the things we're doing that was not going to be approved because Central's already had to go through that problem. So we're trying to learn from our colleagues. And I just cannot say enough good about the team that's been set to help us get this back on track and moving. So we are moving forward. We are projecting an August submission timeline, and we feel very comfortable that we're going to make that. And any details, I'm going to defer to Bill Tulloch because that is his expertise. And I'm going to tell you, this guy knows his stuff. He knows his stuff. And we thank Dr. Sullivan, Bill Tulloch, Whitney Palermo for their assistance and helping us get something on track, because it was some tough leadership decisions that had to be made to put this thing on track. And we thank you all.
That thanks to both of you, chancellors, for the great work. The team that is involved, you've heard mention of Dr. Palermo and Dr. Tulak. There's a team of people that is representing the other colleges in this room. A whole host, probably half a dozen or so people from across the colleges that are helping with this application. For those of you familiar with the SACS application process, what I would share with you is this. It is not enough to pull people from other institutions to write an application, because at some point, Central and Northwest have to own that process. And the work that Bill Tulak is doing in educating and providing professional development for the people at the colleges, that's what really stands up the institution in a way to be able to get through that accreditation process. So Bill, thank you. Thank you to all of the colleagues, to the chancellors in the room who have loaned your staff to make this work. Thank you. We wouldn't be where we are. Committed that each meeting we will have an accreditation update. We'll ask these gentlemen to come back and present to you where we stand with the updates, and hopefully we'll be able to say to you here in the next couple of months, here's that next timeline, here's the next accomplishment. So with that, any questions from the board? All right, thank you very much. And if I may, Madam Chair, the item number 2 that you have there on the agenda, we covered as a part of board development, so we can skip that one.
Pass that. All right. Item number 3, Strategic Enrollment Management Plan.
Good morning, Chair Price, Supervisor Mount, and members of the board. LCTCS Policy 1.033 Strategic Enrollment Management requires the development and implementation of a 5-year strategic enrollment management plan. Our colleges submitted a 1-year plan last year, and as we continue to move into a post-COVID environment, our colleges are still kind of dealing with enrollment changes, and we just need a little bit more of a runway to try to recover. Our colleges are really committed to reevaluating their 1-year plans that they've submitted, and we would like to request of the board another extension. So rather than submitting a 5-year plan, they would submit a 1-year plan. LCTCS is committed to helping our colleges by providing training around building those plans, providing data. And again, our colleges are constantly evaluating those enrollment and tuition revenue goals for this next year. So to that end, staff recommends the board approve colleges to submit to the LCTCS office a 1-year strategic enrollment management plan rather than a 5-year plan no later than July 1 of 2022.
Is there a motion to accept this?
Motion by Mr. Jackson, second by Mr. Toops.
All right. Is there any objection to the motion? Any questions or comments? And that motion passes. Baton Rouge Community College honorary degree.
Would like to invite Dr. Willie Smith to help me with this one. So under policy 1.001, LCTCS institutions may award a degree posthumously to students who met graduation requirements. I'd like to have Dr. Smith talk a little bit about our recipient, Nadia.
Again, thank you, Mr. Chairman, Dr. Sullivan, Board of Supervisors. I'm prepared for this, and this is pretty much a tough one for me. And I guess I can say it this way, many of you know my story or how I was raised and some things, but things going on in our country is taking an impact on our colleges, on our communities, individuals, and family. This young lady, Nadia Payne, mother, wrote me and talked to me about the tragic killing that this young lady was killed, her and her boyfriend, who was also a student of BRCC, who was just starting his life and his career. So with that, Nadia Payne was a student at Baton Rouge Community College in an accounting program at the time of her death. Miss Natalie Payne was raising a small child and engaged in her passion for cooking while she successfully completed coursework in pursuit of her certificate of accounting with a cumulative GPA of 2.4. Nadia would have graduated this May had the tragedy not happened not too long ago. So appreciate your support and hope you support this degree.
So staff recommends that the board approve to award a degree posthumously for Nadia Payne. And Nadia Payne was again a student at Baton Rouge Community College at the time of her death. And she was raising a small child engaged in her passion for cooking while she successfully completed coursework in pursuit of her certificate in accounting with a cumulative GPA of 2.4.
Motion by Mr. Murphy, a second by Ms. Carter.
Any objection to the motion? Is there any comments or questions? Hearing none, that motion passes.
Okay. Also under policy 1.001, LCTCS institutions are authorized to award honorary degrees. And Dr. Smith will talk about our honorary degree, Lamont Rucker.
Thank you, Amy. On a positive note, we here to honor Lamont Rucker. Personally, I don't like the fella. He's a very acclaimed actor. My wife likes him, so of course, I don't pretty much like him as I tease him all the time. So that's just a little joke him and I have. But we seek to award an honorary Associate of Arts in Human Letters degree to Lamont Rucker from Baton Rouge Community College. Mr. Rucker studied at Carnegie Mellon University and Duquesne University. He has an undergraduate degree in Information Technology and Business and a graduate degree in Education and Curriculum Development. Mr. Rucker is best known for his roles in the Tyler Perry films. He co-starred in Why Did I Get Married in 2007, Why Did I Get Married To in 2010. He played Will Brown in 2008, the film called Meet the Browns. He later had a starring role on Tyler Perry's sitcom Meet the Browns, reprising his role as Will from 2009 to 2011. Mr. Rucker is a great supporter of BRCC and actively participate in activities and entertainment initiatives that educate, empower, and inspire people. Mr. Rucker is an avid advocate for social justice, community empowerment, health and wellness, entrepreneurship, the arts, and financial literacy. He has participated in the Voices of the Bayou event at the college that promote art, healing, and mental health. This gentleman has constantly, since I've been the chancellor, prior to the pandemic, or even after the pandemic, has supported our liberal arts division, our English department, and many of our students. The Voices of the Bayou, and many of you board members have been to some of them in the past, is an opportunity where our kids, our students showcase their talent of telling their story. When I got here, they were talking about Hurricane Katrina or the flood in 2016. Now, today we have Voices of the Bayou that's going to talk about mental health. So we invite you to participate in that today if you're around. That's going to be at 3 o'clock. Later this evening, we're going to have Grammy nominated singer Tamar Braxton at 5:30 or 7 o'clock this evening. She'll perform, who also going to address mental health issues and support our students as well. So we seek you guys support on this honorary degree.
So thank you, Dr. Smith. Staff recommends that the board approve to award an honorary Associate of Arts in Humane Letters degree to Lamont Rucker from Baton Rouge Community College.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Hardy, second by the other Mr. Hardy.
Is there any objection to the motion? Any questions or comments? Hearing none, that motion passes.
Thank you.
Done. All right, thank you, ma'am. Supervisor Jackson, facilities action items, please, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On item 6, Mr. Chairman, I know that is of particular interest to you, so I will ask you to take that one for me.
Would be the acceptance of property donation for the benefit of the Louisiana Delta Community College Winsboro campus.
Sir, good morning. Before you, you have a donation that is being made by the city of Winsboro for the Louisiana Delta Community College Winsboro campus. And as part of the authority and powers of the board, we are in charge with accepting that donation. So we're here before you today with that. It's 5 acres that they are proposing to donate as the campus is slated to have a campus expansion in the capital outlay process. So as such, staff recommends that the board accept the donation of property located at the rear of the Louisiana Delta Community College Winsboro campus from the city of Winsboro through the LDCC Foundation for the benefit of the Louisiana Delta Community College Winsboro campus.
Y'all heard the recommendation. I would like to make a motion if I'm allowed to do that.
You're the chair.
Thank you. Is there any more discussion on it? Certainly no opposition.
Have a second on the motion? Thank you, Ms. Mount.
All righty, thank you. That does carry. Always glad to have land donated to us in Winsboro.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item 7, acceptance of property donation for the benefit of the Louisiana Delta Community College, Bastrop.
Sir, this is another donation being made by the Morehouse Innovation and Technology Alliance. They are proposing to donate 7.2 acres of land for the construction of a campus. They are donating it with the caveat that it will be contingent upon a line of credit being issued by the bond commission for the project. So they just wish to see some activity take place before the actual transaction happens. But in the meantime, the foundation will hold that property until such time, the Delta Foundation. As such, staff recommends that the board accept the donation of property from the Morehouse Innovation and Technology Alliance through the LDCC Foundation for the benefit of the Louisiana Delta Community College Bastrop campus.
We've heard the recommendation. Is there a motion?
Move.
So Mr. Spawn, second by Mr. Salah.
Discussion. Any objection? No objection, the motion carries. Item number 8, transfer of property to the Board of Regents on behalf of LUMCON.
LUMCON, yes, sir.
LUMCON.
Yes, sir. And this is a little bit of housekeeping in nature. Currently, LUMCON, which is the Louisiana University's Marine Consortium, is constructing a facility down on some property close to the on the Lampe campus, that is, to which we own a portion of land on it, on the Dixon Road. Because of that, we would like to do is provide the property, donate it to the Board of Regents, who oversees LUMCON, to realign that property with the project. As we have some liability exposure, since we technically own a part of this land where all this construction is taking place, which is really under the purview of the Board of Regents. So again, this realigns that land with the project. As staff recommends that the board authorize the president and the chancellor of Fletcher Technical Community College to complete all of the requirements and execute all documents necessary for the transfer of a portion of the Lampe campus to the Board of Regents on behalf of LUMCON.
You've heard the recommendation from staff. Is there a motion?
Moving on, Mr. Salah.
Any discussion? Any objection? Motion. Helen, you had a discussion, Helen? No objection, motion carries. Item number 9, cooperative endeavor agreement between the Iberville Parish School Board and the LCTCS on behalf of River Parishes Community College.
Sir, back in 2010, just a little bit of a history for Act 391, the school board donated land to which we built our West Side campus. The school board is currently undergoing an expansion, and as opposed to, instead of building a whole new driveway to their campus, which is going to be located to where our West Side campus is, they're asking permission as good neighbors if we would allow them to use our driveway as opposed to them constructing a whole new driveway with all the right of ways that they would have to go through. And they are committing to entering into a CEA with us where they will provide the resources necessary for the upkeep of that driveway, recognizing that it will be an additional strain on it. But as such, staff recommends that the board authorize the president and the chancellor of River Parishes Community College to complete all of the requirements to execute a cooperative endeavor agreement that will allow the Iberville Parish School Board permanent access across the River Parishes Community College West Side campus.
Thank you. We've heard the recommendation. Can we have a motion?
Join Ms. Mount. A second by Ms. Pickron.
Is there any discussion? Is there any objection? Hearing none, the motion carries. Last item, item number 10, technical correction to cooperative endeavor agreement between the Louisiana Delta Community College and City of Bastrop.
Sir, we're on the home stretch on an easy one. This is a technical cleanup we brought before the board for action, which you did act upon it in February. This cooperative endeavor agreement, what we unfortunately failed to do, and that was to mention that the board is party to that agreement, and which to us it's technical. It's a given that it's understood, but as far as the state is concerned, they like to see the T's crossed and the I's dotted. So we are bringing it back to incorporate the board as party to that cooperative endeavor agreement. As such, staff recommends that board approve a technical correction to the cooperative endeavor agreement between the Louisiana Delta Community College and the city of Bastrop to change the agreement parties to the Louisiana Community and Technical College system on behalf of Louisiana Delta Community College and the city of Bastrop.
Thank you. Hearing recommendation, do we have a motion?
Mr. Salath, second by Mr. Spahn.
Is there any discussion? Is there any objection? Hearing none, the motion carries. Thank you, Joe. Mr. Chairman, that ends facilities reports.
Thank you, Supervisor Jackson. Appreciate that. Supervisor Salath, it's your turn.
Excuse me, Supervisor Salath, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to point out for the record, a point of personal privilege, that there was an opportunity for public comments prior to the meeting and none have been submitted. We forgot to announce that at the start of the meeting. And at this time, no one has called in for public comment either. And I'll update that towards the end of the meeting if we have any call-ins.
Go ahead.
The Financial Committee report, review and advertisement revisions of policy 5.008, accounts receivable policy. Joe?
Yes, sir. As we do with all policies, we're bringing before you a policy today for review and advisement. And then at the next meeting, we'll bring it for formal action. So no action is necessary at this time. There has been since 2020 a piece of legislation that provides that colleges and universities may adopt policies relating to holding the transcript as a vehicle for debt collection, or the prohibition actually for using transcripts for that purpose. The chancellors as such with the CFOs got together to see about revising the policy to see what we could do to strike out that reference, because we currently too have that in policy right now where we actually have that we can withhold transcripts and use that as a vehicle to use as a debt collection tool for our students. And so before you, we bring a policy that is currently being set up where we do strike that reference, where on the first page of the policy where we strike out reference to withholding a transcript. However, there are some additional languages that we do put in there related to third-party payments, just as clarifying language, not related to this issue necessarily, but also processes by which students have to go through to memorialize that debt prior to a transcript being issued. So it's a bit of a change with this policy coming before you. I would like to note that prior to us bringing this to you before at the next meeting, there is another piece of legislation out there currently in the legislative session that actually strikes the reference of may and makes it mandatory that colleges and universities shall not have any policies related to the withholding of transcripts as a vehicle for debt collection. It also references other things such as the issuance of grades, diplomas, degrees, other things of that nature. So it's more broad. And the reason I mentioned that to you is that while we have this policy before you for review and advisement, when we come before you at the next meeting, we actually may have a completely different policy before you that's going to reflect those changes that's being proposed currently in the legislative session. So as such, staff recommends that the board accept for review and advisement the attached revisions to policy 5.008, accounts receivable policy.
Well, let me ask you a question. How often is that policy, and do we use it? Has it been utilized?
It has. I would say though that the CFOs say that there's maybe this misconception that this is widespread, used in a widespread manner, and they say it's really not. It's really a vehicle. It's a means of last resort, and that hardly many students get to. I don't have the numbers before me, but it was a small number. It's not as high as one would think. But with that,
very limited.
Very well. Yes, it's used very on a limited basis.
Thank you.
The recommendation. Do we have a motion?
There's not a need for a motion, Mr. Salath. This is for review and advisement at this time.
I'm sorry, it's review. Yes.
It
absolutely.
is. Yes, sir.
Okay, the next item is authorization, naming opportunities at River Parish Community College. Kevin.
Sir, let me take a drink of water before I start this because this looks like it's a long recommendation. And I'd like to thank Quentin Taylor and his staff for doing it to me. So we have before you multiple donations that are being made to River Parishes Community College. And as per policy 4.003 related to naming rights, we're coming before you with those. As you can see in the board item, there are 6 items, and I've totaled the dollar value totaling $385,000 that persons are making on behalf to the college, noting that some of those funds will be matched through the Board of Regents endowed professorships funds. So these funds will be multiplied to some extent. But with that said, I'll read the recommendation. In accordance with LCTCS Board Policy 4.003 and River Parishes Community College's own naming policy, this memo represents the formal request by the college. Staff recommends that the board authorize exclusive naming rights for the proposed facilities at River Parishes Community College. I'll just quickly read: a Marathon Petroleum Media Center at Reserve Campus for 25 years in recognition of their $200,000 grant that will be used for scholarships, including $170,000 of endowed scholarships that will be leveraged for matching funds from the Louisiana Board of Regents. Evonic Classroom at the Reserve Campus for 25 years in recognition of their $80,000 donation that will be used for scholarships, including $70,000 of endowed scholarships that will be leveraged for matching funds from the Louisiana Board of Regents. Hancock Whitney Ruth Scanlon Classroom at the Gonzales Campus Academic Building for 20 years in recognition of their $30,000 gift that established an endowed first-generation scholarship that received a Board of Regents matching funds. Ascension Credit Union Classroom at the Gonzales Campus for 20 years in recognition of their $30,000 gift to establish an endowed first-generation scholarship that will be leveraged for the Board of Regents matching funds. Hunter Lambert Memorial Scholarship Classroom at the Gonzales Campus in recognition of the $25,000 gift made in memory of Hunter Lambert, grandson of former state senator and RPCC founding foundation member Louis Lambert. Everett Scott Memorial Scholarship Classroom at the Gonzales Campus in recognition of the $20,000 gift made in memory of Everett Scott. Mr. Scott had plans to enroll at RPCC in the HVAC program when he died in an accident. We are pending approval from the Board of Regents for matching funds for a workforce scholarship.
This recommendation, right? Okay, so do I have a
As a
motion?
motion by Mr. Toops. A second by Mr. Spawn.
Discussion? Any opposition? Then the motion carries. Thank you.
Chairman, if I may, just one quick point. Our chairman leaned over to me in the midst of this reading and said, if this gig doesn't work out for Joe, he's got a future as a legal disclaimer reader in the commercials.
I'm waiting for the calls to come in any minute.
You would be great.
Or auctioneer.
Right, or auctioneer.
All righty. Thank you, Supervisor Salath. Supervisor Hardy, will you present the items for consideration from the Personnel Committee? Please, sir.
At this time, on a point of personal privilege, I'd like to say as follows. Mr. Chairman and fellow supervisors, with regard to the next item on the agenda, consideration of a legal services contract, I am recusing myself from any discussion, consideration, or vote on this matter in accordance with procedures outlined in Louisiana Revised Statute 42:1120.4. Further, should this board elect to enter into executive session for discussions regarding this item, I'd also ask that the minutes reflect that I am recusing myself from participating in any such portion of an executive session during which this.
Thank you, Supervisor Hardy. That has been noted for the record.
Would request a motion to enter into the executive session, discuss H.13 legal service contract for LCTCS, H1.4 period, pending and potential litigation and unsolicited proposal, and H.15 college leadership update. A motion to enter in the executive session.
Motion by Mr. Kubion, a second by Mr. Spawn. I will conduct a roll call vote. We will include Supervisor Hardy on the roll call vote to enter into executive session. And at the time of the item that he has recused himself from, he will be invited into the executive session. So this is a vote to go into executive session. Supervisor Price. Supervisor Mount.
Yes.
Supervisor Jackson.
Yes.
Supervisor Carter. Supervisor Roman Hardy. Supervisor Tim Hardy. Supervisor Murphy, Supervisor Salath,
Yes.
Supervisor Smith, Supervisor Spawn,
Yes.
Supervisor Toops, Supervisor Kuvion,
Yes.
and Supervisor Pickron. Yes. Mr. Chairman, you have a unanimous vote to enter into executive session.
Not until you'll tell me. I can't.
Hey, Josh, can we make sure that YouTube is muted and also shows the executive session? And I said, Josh, I meant Brandon. YouTube is muted and the executive session sign is up.
Yes, I would. Like, do you call the roll call first, Sarah, or?
I think you say your statement first. and
Okay,
then
I
I'll
would
call
like
roll.
to reconvene the meeting and let everyone know that no votes were taken and no consensus was reached during executive session.
Thank you, and I'll call roll
Mhm.
to exit executive session. Supervisor Price,
Present.
Supervisor Mount,
Here.
Supervisor Jackson, Supervisor Carter, Supervisor Roman Hardy,
Here.
Supervisor Tim Hardy is here. Supervisor Michael Murphy, Supervisor Salah, Supervisor Smith, Supervisor Spawn, Supervisor Toops, Supervisor Kuvion,
Here.
Supervisor Pickron. Mr. Chairman, your board is present out of executive session.
Very good. Thank you, ma'am. Supervisor Salath, would you take item 13, please?
Mr. Salath, can you pull your microphone down? Thank you.
Sorry. Item 13, legal services contracts for LCTCS. If you would, Chris.
Sir, I'll take that. Supervisor Salath, Mr. Chairman, Dr. Sullivan, and members of the board. For the benefit of those who are newer to our board, we'll let you know that since the inception of this system and this Board of Supervisors, our system has had a relationship with a longtime Baton Rouge law firm of Brazil, Saxe and Wilson, who have provided legal representation to this board, to our system, and every college within our system. Through that period of time, we have enjoyed a strong relationship that as the years progress and that interaction, we've become more efficient and understanding how to work together even better to get better results for our system. Those contracts generally run on a 3-year term, and we are coming to the end of a term. And it is important for this board to have continuity of legal services going forward. And so we have provided an evaluation to you and are now making the following recommendation. Staff recommends that the board renew a legal services contract with Brazil, Saxe and Wilson LLP effective July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2025 at an amount not to exceed $200,000 per year. And this contract is subject to the approval of the Office of State Procurement.
Recommendation, do I have a motion?
Moved.
So Mr. Spawn and a second by Mr. Hardy.
Any discussion?
Um,
Hearing no discussion, motion passes.
Mr. Salad, since
Yeah.
we have a board member who recused himself from this vote, we will have to conduct a roll call vote.
Excuse
We'll
me,
have a-
Sarah,
Yes, sir.
if we can you please clarify that it was seconded by Roman Hardy?
Yes, I'm
Okay,
sorry.
thank you.
I wrote down our Hardys. So Mr. Tim Hardy is recused himself from the vote to remind you all prior to the executive session. We'll vote to approve item 13. Supervisor Price.
Yes.
Supervisor Mount.
Yes.
Supervisor Jackson is not here. Wait, Supervisor Jackson, where are you?
He had to leave for a doctor's appointment, but he
Oh.
came back in for
He did come
executive
back.
session.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, sorry about that. Supervisor Carter. We're voting to approve item 13. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. That's approved. Supervisor Roman Hardy. Supervisor Michael Murphy.
Yes.
Supervisor Salah.
Yes.
Supervisor Smith. Supervisor Spawn. Supervisor Toops.
Yes.
Supervisor Kuvion.
Yes.
And Supervisor Pickron.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That vote has passed.
Thank you. Supervisor Tim Hardy, I believe it's time for you to present the personnel action items for consideration by the board.
Be honored, Mr. Chairman. First item, pending and potential litigation and unsolicited proposal.
Well, no further updates to provide there. I know that Jim Raines did a great job of providing an update on our current pending litigation. No decisions were made in executive session.
This is for informational purposes only. College leadership update.
Part of executive session, the board was informed of the intent for continuing the search at River Parishes Community College, as well as commencing a search to begin within days at Northwest Louisiana Technical Community College.
Last, this is for approval. Revisions to policy number 6.011, prohibition and prevention of discrimination, harassment, and retaliation.
Sir, this policy is being brought before you for action. It was brought to you at the February meeting for review and advisement. It's a revision to this policy to reflect the latest state and federal laws related to discrimination, harassment, and retaliation. It, in essence, provides some clarity where in the past, the policy made references to employees and students. It just generally references persons, so it's broader. There's no confusion in terms of who has to comply with this policy. It also clarifies that all complaints of harassment, discrimination will be referred to the Title IX office first before being farmed out to the appropriate office, whether it's HR or student affairs, based on the nature of the complaint. So as such, staff recommends that the board approve the attached revisions to policy 6.011, prohibition and prevention of discrimination, harassment, and retaliation policy.
Heard the motion. Is there a motion for approval?
Yes.
Motion by Mr. Toops and second by Ms. Pickron.
Is there a second? You got the second? Is there any discussion? Is there any opposition? Hearing none, it is approved.
None, sir. I have no more work for you. At this point in time, I would like to present the consent agenda items for consideration by the board.
Sir, Mr. Chairman, staff recommends that the board approve consent agenda, which consists of agenda items I1 through I3.
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Kuvion, a second by Ms. Mount.
Is any more discussion? Any opposition? Hearing none, that motion carries. At this point, I would like to reference updates and encourage board members to review the information provided. I would like to also remind board members, I know Michael will be glad for me to do this, at tier 2.1, ethics is due. What is that? Financial disclosures, excuse me, is due. And tier 1, okay. So we'll get everybody by May the 16th, correct? Okay, just a general reminder. Would also like to say that we all know Monty Sullivan is a heck of a system president. And I asked him before the meeting, I said, Monty, how long is this meeting gonna take? What time are we gonna get out of here? And he said 12:45. It's 12:42. If we drag it, and he's saying he didn't sandbag in there either. So anyway, is there any other additional business?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to note again for the record that we had 0 requests for public comment.
Good deal. Any announcements? You don't want to sit here for 2 more minutes to make him look really good? Chair will seek a motion to adjourn. Motion by Stevie Smith, obviously, and a second by Toops. Anybody else? Any opposition? Hearing none, that motion carries.
Thank you, Mr.
y'all.
Chairman. We are adjourned at 12:43 p.m.
That's pretty good. Pretty impressive. Yep.
Brandon, can you